All right. All right. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the podcast, the Organizedpreneur Podcast. And I'm super excited about my guest today. And we're going to get into a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about some organizing stuff. Because let me tell you something, this woman is already organized. So I need to be getting tips from her in the first place. But anyway, but I'm really super excited to be interviewing my friend Stacy today. She's an amazing emerging entrepreneur, and she does a plethora of things. And so I don't even know how she even has time to do all the things that she does. And even when we were just talking a few minutes ago, like tomorrow, she's going to be doing a marathon or something, right? Something. I mean, like, how do you do all of that stuff? So I mean, how do you find time to do all of that stuff? You work full time, you're working on different, projects and things like that. How do you get it all done?
Well, I will tell you, I used to call myself a multitasker, which I don't anymore because I did go to a webinar to learn about focusing. And the biggest takeaway I got from that first webinar was stop multitasking and focus on one thing at a time. And so once I started focusing, I realized I had all of this extra time that I was filling up trying to do a bunch of things at the same time, and I was actually losing time. So I started focusing and I started scheduling my day, which is, the biggest thing to being organized. If you can sit down for 5 minutes, my daughter and I actually do it every night. We go to the calendar, we schedule our next day, and we talk about what we're going to do the next day so we know. And I can fit in a lot. I work full time in 2 different jobs, and I have 2 solo businesses that I'm trying to run. And yes, I am a long distance runner, which is hours out in the field or on the streets running. So really my biggest thing is take 5 minutes every day, every night, every morning, focus and plan it out and do one thing at a time. And you can fit it all in.
I love that. I so love that. And by the way, listeners, I forgot to tell you her name and everything else. So my friend Stacy is here. And so I was so excited that, we just started talking. We were actually, having a conversation even before we hit the record button. So I just kind of brought you in on the conversation as though, you listeners were already here. And yeah, so anyway, so this is Stacy, my friend Stacy. So Stacy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate so much, taking the time out of your busy schedule, like I just shared.
Yeah.
And you just shared, some of the things that you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, in terms of your entrepreneurial endeavors.
Sure. So my full-time job actually kind of led me to that. So I have a 30-year career in property management, commercial asset management. So I oversaw shopping centers, large, huge Home Depots, Targets, trying to think, market baskets, everything like that, supermarkets. And so for 30 years, I've been very scheduled on seasonal things and overseeing staff. And one day my boss came in and said, how do you stay so organized? And I kind of explained it to him. And he said, you really should think about doing something on the side. You'd be really good at being a solopreneur, one-person business owner. So I started thinking about that. And as I mentioned before, I'm a long distance runner. And one of the things that I found during a race one day, it was cold and it was up in the Northeast, a little slippery. And we were running a marathon and everybody had a cloth. You can wipe your face or blow your nose, whatever. And everybody kept dropping their cloth. And I'd step on them and slip. And it was just so frustrating. So right there, I said, I need to design something that my company is called Sweat Proof. And the cloth is now being designed and it's on a retractor, and you can clip it or you can carabiner it to whatever you're wearing, and you can wipe your face, blow your nose, do whatever you need to do, and just let it go, and it will go back up into the retractor, and they're not falling over the streets. with COVID, it's awesome because now you're not, your germs aren't all out there. If you're trying to, when we run, we kind of do a little blow with our nose. Now you don't have to do that. And now we can customize them with either your company's logo, your race logo, any kind of a spiritual saying, anything that you want on it, encouragement, we can imprint on it. And so instead of getting a t-shirt or getting a hat, now you can get this with the race logo on it. So that is what I'm in the middle of right now. And I am this close to opening my website up and start selling it. And every time I go to a race and I have mine, people want to know where they can get it. So the minute I open that up, I think that's going to be fantastic. Yeah. And I'll be able to add other products to it now because Sweatproof will be the brand.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool because you saw a need, or a gap in the, in the industry for where you are and what you're doing.
Right.
You saw that need there and people were asking you. So there was a demand.
Right.
And that's how it's done. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we want to start things and sometimes it's like, nobody's really interested in that, Yeah. And so, so I love that. And so
if you go where your passion is and you find people who are passionate about the same thing, you find your need in that passion space.
Yeah.
You that's where you need to land. That's where you need to start and land, and it'll come to fruition from that.
Yeah, I really, really love that. That is so cool. Now, had you thought about entrepreneurial endeavors even before you discovered that little gap there? That need. Had you thought about it before?
No, not really. My boss was the one that kind of said, you'd be really good to do a business, and I haven't taken any business classes. I went to school actually for engineering, so it's I have no business experience whatsoever. I'm learning that as we go along.
As we go, yeah.
And there's a lot to learn. My brain is tired when I get home. So there's many nights I do fall asleep sitting straight up on the sofa. And I wake up at 3:00 in the morning in the same position. So it does get your brain. I feel like a kindergartner, like when I come home and I've learned all this stuff and my brain is just overwhelming. But no, I've never thought of it. And he just kind of nudged me. And he's very encouraging. He's a great mentor. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so, just for the listeners, there is a community that the way I met Stacy was through the community, the virtual community that she manages. Did you want to share a little bit about the community, or?
I can, sure. Right here, Solo Together. We have a community on Facebook called the Solopreneur Community, and it really is for experienced and aspiring solopreneurs. And we all come together and share tidbits about our businesses and tax tips and marketing tips and all different things. And it's just a great place for everyone who has a business question or how to run a business by yourself to come in. And I do that actually with the boss that I mentioned. I've been with him for 30 years and we're doing that together. So that's just amazing. We've met so many, you as well, so many amazing people through there. It's great.
Yeah. It's a great community too. So we'll make sure that in the show notes that, there's links to the community and links to be able to contact you, if anyone is looking for, or looking to connect with you with regards with, what you're doing as well.
Okay, great.
So we'll definitely include that in the show notes. So I wanted to just kind of pivot just a little bit because this is about organization. And so as I said from the start, when we first started talking, she's very, very organized. Okay. But she went through my 5-day challenge.
I did.
And so I guess, so my question, about that is, so why did you choose the challenge and what was your experience as a result of going through the challenge? What was your experience going through the challenge?
It was awesome. And like you said, I am very, very organized. Like this is my office. You can see very organized. My home is very organized. But there was one space in my house that drove me nuts every single day. I mean, this isn't my junk drawer. I'm not talking about my junk drawer. My junk drawer has little bins and everything's in its place and it's supposed to be. But there is one space in my house that drove me nuts every single day. And it was the bureau in my bedroom. And because I was so tired, sometimes you come in, some people drop things on the counter or the kitchen table. Everything I needed to drop went on my bureau. And I couldn't even see the top of my bureau. I couldn't find my jewelry, nothing. The rest of my house, people are like, oh my gosh, your home is so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, don't go to my bedroom. Because the top of my bed's made. I got the coordinating pillows. It's beautiful. Top of my bureau, people are like, okay, that's really out of character. That doesn't belong there. But I was so exhausted and it was just my little safe space.
Yeah.
So I chose that for the challenge because, your bedroom should be serene. It should be peaceful. It should be stress-free. And it was not for me. And I deal with a little anxiety with that. So I went through the challenge. It was awesome. And believe me, I have tried to organize it before. I have tried to clean it before. But your tactic, your way of doing it, it's still clear. And I did it 4 challenges ago. So what was that? 5 months?
5 months ago. Yeah.
It's still clear. And every time I go to put something down, I stop and I think, no, put that where it goes. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that. But the way that you do it with, you can explain
the framework.
Taking it and putting it into different piles and not trying to just put things where they go, but actually assess what you have really made me stop and think. And since then, I've gone back through other spaces that I thought were neat and organized, but gotten rid of things like they're just being stored there. I don't really use them or need them. So it was amazing. And having it over the 5 days, I didn't feel like I was stressed about having to get something done. We really took the time to do it. So I loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that because sometimes when people go through, 5-day challenges, because even in the group, some of the people, some of the ladies were saying, it wasn't enough time, I felt overwhelmed, because there are times at certain points based on the framework that I provide, based on at certain points, it starts to feel a little overwhelming for some people.
Yeah.
And so, but as we go through it, first of all, I always try to tell people that it always looks worse before it looks better.
Right.
And at this particular stage, I think it's like at the second stage, it starts to feel overwhelming, right? Because everybody's, looking at piles and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's just enough time to be able to focus on one small area,
right,
and not try to do your whole house or your garage or what have you, because there's really not enough time for you to do that,
right,
particularly if you're doing it by yourself, that type of thing. And so, I mean, if I might say so myself, I like the framework too. So
it's great. It's great. Yeah. And I did get overwhelmed when I saw those piles because I normally don't have piles around my house.
Right.
And I was like, okay, but just let it be. Just let it sit there for a day.
Yes.
Do the next day. And I'm telling you, it's still, I love my room now. I love it.
I love that. I love that. So what do you think? So, and I think you already answered that, because one of the questions I was going to ask, what was your biggest challenge and what changed? But it seems like what you're saying is what changed is you were able to conquer that area that was so annoying for you. And you've been able to maintain that, because you went through the challenge, 4 or 5 months ago,
right,
and you've still been able to maintain that. So, if I may answer that for you, what changed was you were able to maintain a sense of order by being consistently aware,
right,
of what was, keeping what was annoying you in the first place, and, being able to, find the time to just, keep things at bay. Would that be a correct assessment? Or
it is. And it also, even just because it was a small space, I don't think it matters what size space you do. Even if you do a small space, you could do a junk drawer, you could do the top of your office desk, whatever it is. It made me look at that space in a way that I wanted it to bring me joy. And so now when I go into another room in my house, I say, okay, what else? Where else can I do this? What else can I do? And it's kind of like cleansing. And I look at everything totally different now. Like, why do we have the dog's cabinet? It's organized, but why do we have a little bin with like 4 or 5 little winter coats and everything when the dog doesn't like to wear the coats? The dog won't put the coat on, right? Like, so the coats are gone.
Yeah.
Every time I go to put a coat on the dog, I have a little tiny mini dachshund. She's like, she puts her little paws up, she like this, and she's like, I'm not putting my coat on. It's gone, right? It was like before, and now it doesn't give me the stress, because when I look at it, I'm like, oh, those coats are there. She doesn't want to wear them. It's stressing me.
Yeah.
Get rid of the coats.
Yeah.
So I can carry it into other areas, even if I'm organized. It's the mental organization as well. De-stressing, that you can still go through areas and make sure it brings you peace and joy.
Yeah. Now, had you ever done a 5-day challenge before?
No.
Oh, wow.
Never done it. Had never done it. And I was surprised. I stuck with it, because usually I want to get stuff done. Remember, I was the multitasker. I want to get it done fast.
Right.
No, I focused on it, and it was awesome. Wow. It was perfect.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love that. Is there one thing that you can say was a big takeaway for you, or, the
biggest takeaway for me was I learned really what was making me stressed. I thought it was just like, the day. But when I came in and I had that stuff everywhere, I wasn't even able to de-stress from my day, because that was there. So I learned a little bit about what stresses me in my own space. And I just let a bunch of stuff go that I thought was stressing me that really wasn't stressing me. I just learned what the trigger points were and to fix them.
Yeah. I love that. That. Well, I so appreciate you coming on. And as I said before, to all of those that'll be listening or watching the podcast, all of the information to be able to contact you, particularly with your product, and as well as the community. The community is amazing and growing.
Thank you.
And and Stacy as a community manager is amazing. So I just absolutely I love being a part of the solopreneur community as well. I felt like, there's a couple, I haven't been as engaging as I would like to be.
Oh, you are.
But okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
You are.
But it's just an amazing community. And the way I found your community was it showed up on my feed several times. I saw solopreneur. Okay. And, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. And didn't think about it anymore. Then it showed up again. I was like, okay. And then by the third time, I was like, okay, I think I want to be a part of this community. And so I love being a part of your community, and I love what you're doing. Even though I'm not a runner or anything, but there may be some runners that's on here that may be able to identify with that particular challenge, because it's not just that. I mean, that would work for somebody if they're in the gym, working out.
We're going to market it to runners, walkers, gardeners, hooking it on a baby carriage, like people like you would use tissue or something and you have to throw it away. We're trying to remain a little bit more eco-friendly and not having to use so much paper, and you can just throw it in the washing machine. So it's going to go across any type of activity, anything that you're outside moving.
Yeah, yeah. Super cool, super cool. Well, I so appreciate you taking time out of your day to join
Thank
me on
you.
the podcast. And I'll be sure to put the links in there. And yeah, so if you want to know more about the organizedpreneur endeavors or be a part of the challenge, just go to declutterwithdream.com and register. They are monthly trainings, and so that you can get some results as well. So
Do it
thank you.
today. Do it
Yeah,
today.
thank you. Thank you, Stacy. I so
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you
Thank
for
you.
joining me. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And yeah, and have an amazing day.
Bye.